We deal with narcissists by learning from them how not to behave. Narcissism is very obviously a state of great insecurity. Someone who is so afraid of having a self-critical thought. Why? Because they don't value themselves. They actually consider themselves to be worthless. And if they examine any other idea, for example, if they examine the idea that maybe they're wasting people's time, or they examine the idea that they may be in fact the cause of their own experience rather than blaming others. Narcissists are famous for blaming others. Yes, this happened, but it's all your fault. Narcissists tend to apologize in the following way. I'm really sorry, but it wouldn't have happened unless you'd done that. The conditional apology. Narcissists love to, there's that old joke about narcissists, enough about me, what do you think about me? They're always wanting to curve the conversation back onto what they're experiencing. And, how do we deal with all of that? Well, we need to see the underlying juvenile nature of such people. They're very juvenile and obviously very unconscious. They are not aware of the straining effect that their egocentricity is having on everyone around them. And there's a reason for it. That is, if they ever consider somebody else's experience, and if they consider that they may have in fact been the cause of someone's misery or indeed their own misery, they feel suicidal. And in a desperation to avoid potential self-destruction, they have to blame others and self-aggrandize, make themselves grand, and make sure that others always are at fault. Others are to blame for their worst experiences, and that they have only themselves to credit for the best experiences that they've had. They have only themselves to credit for the best experiences that anyone around them has had. So anyone who's around them has had a good experience because of them, or they themselves have only had a good experience because of them and their qualities. This is a very, very dark fear of self-destruction. They've contemplated self-destruction many times, gone into that spiral and that vortex, and the only way they can find out of it is to make themselves into a god or a goddess that is blemish-free, and that all evident blemishes are the fault of others. And so when we see this, it may be curable, but don't try to cure it unless you're asked. Worthy inquiry is the basis on which we ever offer any kind of wise or trusted counsel. If there's no worthy inquiry, then we don't. And to the extent that there's worthy inquiry, that measured extent, then to that extent we do offer whatever it is that might be helpful to somebody. Narcissism is a deadly psychological human disease that requires a specialist therapist who's not going to be pulled into the vortex of the narcissist, who can actually help the narcissist break. The problem is that most narcissists will never seek therapy, because to do so is an admission of some fault. And so it's a very sad state, actually. It's very sad. My advice as far as dealing with them is that famous line, the best defense is no be there. Unless you're absolutely required to, the very best lesson for them is to wonder about why they've isolated themselves. They need to ask those questions themselves. And so we need to be careful not to get in the path of a narcissist for too long. Also, don't base your own feelings or your own self-worth on anything you hear such a person say. It's best to be self-sufficient in your own self-assessment. It's best to form your own view about the value that you bring to the world. Don't get entangled in the web of egocentricity the black hole of narcissism. And so what is the hope for them? When things get bad enough, hopefully they'll be able to break the spell of their narcissism for long enough that they'll be able to ask some self-critical questions and seek help. And other than that, there's nothing much we can do for them. We ourselves are grateful that we are not as badly tainted with that as some others might be. Narcissism is not a black and white state. You might have a little bit of it. You might have a lot of it. You might be absolutely an icon of narcissism. But coming out of it is a long process, and it's a process of transcending thinking. A narcissist has to learn how to step beyond thought, regularly step beyond thought, because these are people for whom constant thinking, day and night, is one of the features of their state. It's a state that requires enormous thinking effort to support. It's extremely exhausting. And most people who get entangled with narcissists, for whatever social reason they are entangled, they'll find that narcissists have astonishing longevity. They usually outlive everybody who they wear out. So don't be one of those who gets worn out by it. We need to pay attention to our own development, to our own state of consciousness, develop that, learn to thrive in that, and bring the best that we are to the world. Don't foist on the world like a narcissist would do. Unsolicited advice, unsolicited comments, unsolicited controlling behaviors. We're not interested in being controllers. We're not interested in, giving unsought advice. We're not interested in asserting ourselves on people who haven't asked for help. We're simple, natural, innocent meditators, and we practice our meditation twice every day, and we respond to the need of the time quietly, gracefully, and we don't personally try to take credit for it all. Credit all belongs to the big self, to universal intelligence.